Here comes Sims. Pedaling into the paint, leaning and hitting a 10-0 run to start this game for Indiana, and Minnesota wants a time.
Okay, this is wild. What did Kelsey Mitchell say in the locker room after Indiana's third straight win that had her teammates absolutely buzzing? The Fever just knocked off the Lynx, and get this, they did it without 5 key players, including Caitlin Clark. That moment perfectly summed up this team's mindset heading into the playoffs. Stay tuned, because Mitchell's words may be the clearest glimpse yet into how the Fever see themselves, not as underdogs, but as contenders rewriting the script in 2025. If you're pumped up for the playoffs, comment fired up for the Fever down below. Let's go.
I know a lot of people will talk about Nafisa not playing, but I think they're really good without her. You know, they're just a really great basketball team. So I think it was a big win for us because they set the bar high standard-wise. We know what to expect when it comes to Minnesota Lynx, and so I think going into the playoffs, it was big for us because being able to know guarding Courtney Williams, knowing that her thing is a pull-up, knowing that now instead of not knowing that, it's big for us because we give ourselves a chance, and if they are the standard, we get to see where we are.
But hold up. How does a team missing 5 of its key players manage to put together 3 straight wins against some of the toughest competition in the league? That's exactly what the Indiana Fever just accomplished, and for a squad that looked left for dead just a couple of weeks ago, the turnaround feels like a story no one saw coming. We're talking Caitlin Clark, Sophie Cunningham, Sydney Colson, Chloe Bibby, and Erie McDonald all sidelined. That's 5 rotation players, including the literal face of the league in Clark. For most teams, losing that much talent would have been the nail in the coffin, especially heading into the stretch run of the season.
Fever done with the MVP, okay? Bow, bow, bow! Hell yeah.
Or you already know what it is?
Dubs in the change, you already know what it is. You already know what it is. Let's go to the playoffs with some momentum, baby.
Remember, this was a group that had lost 4 of its previous 5 games. At that exact moment, Indiana's playoff dreams looked like they were slipping away. Fans were seriously asking if the Fever would even have enough bodies to be competitive, let alone string together wins against teams like the Lynx. You could feel that doubt start to creep in, like the entire season, which had been sprinkled with so much promise, was about to just dissolve in front of everyone.
Yeah, one of the things that I've been impressed with these guys since even the offseason, really the ones that I was able to work out with in the offseason, is how hard they work. It's there's a work ethic and there's a work style, and to approach everything in the same way, to be so energetic, enthusiastic, and dedicated every day. And I felt that way in training camp too. There weren't any days where I had to bring that out of them. So I think it's the nature of the women that we brought into this organization to continue to just bust their butts and play hard.
But this team didn't cave. Instead, they scrambled to reinvent themselves right in the middle of the season. Coach Stephanie White preached a simple, powerful message for the players to hold on to. Be where your feet are. That phrase carried meaning way beyond the obvious. It forced every single player to stop worrying about who wasn't on the court and refocus on who was available, what role they could play, and how they could impact each possession.
It's not how many times you get knocked down, it's how many times you get back up. And, these are things that you have to go through. I often say there's no substitute for experience, and the experience that these guys have had to have to continue to reinvent, to have to continue to find different ways to get back up, and to play through some different struggles is not just paying us dividends this season, but as far as what it's doing for our culture, it's going to pay dividends for many years to come.
And get this, that mentality showed up immediately in their clash with Minnesota. Indiana stormed out to a 10-0 lead, setting a tempo that absolutely stunned the Lynx. They weren't waiting around, they imposed their energy at both ends of the floor. Shots were falling, the defense was swarming, and suddenly the Fever had flipped the whole story. Instead of drowning in injuries, they were dictating the action. You saw it from the veterans grabbing huge rebounds and the reserves diving on loose ball. Everyone bought into the idea that their best chance to win came from competing harder than the opponent on every single play. It wasn't always pretty, but it was relentless. That's the kind of performance that separates a team surviving from a team actually winning. And here's the payoff. That win not only pushed the Fever into their first winning record since 2015, it also showed that resilience is now their identity. Injuries didn't define them. Their response, and while the blueprint for how to adapt has been written as a team, it's also been carried by individuals who elevated their games to new heights. None more so than Kelsey Mitchell, whose historic season is reshaping the future of Indiana basketball. On the bed.
I love y'all!
With no Caitlin Clark on the floor, the biggest question was simple: who was going to step up and actually keep the Fever alive? This wasn't just about filling her stat line, it was about finding scoring, leadership, and energy from somewhere else entirely. That's why the Lynx game was so eye-opening. It showed everyone that Indiana's depth isn't just surviving, it's thriving when the lights are brightest. You're probably thinking, fans worried that without Clark and Sophie Cunningham, the Fever's offense would dry up, and honestly, it was a fair concern. Those two carry the kind of shooting presence that spacing totally relies on, but instead of stagnating, Indiana leaned on versatility.
Only 8 teams have ever done that. 7 of them went on to win the title. As Boston gets free and lays it in.
She will be on my first team.
Boston in the paint sneaks through 2 and lays it in. Aaliyah Boston became more than just a paint anchor. She actually ran offense from the post like a guard in a center's body. She even tied her own rebounding record, grabbing everything in sight, and every time she touched the ball on the block, the Lynx defense shifted. By forcing doubles, she opened lanes for shooters, setting the table for everyone else.
Here's Boston off the steal, coast to coast, heading for 2. Here comes Sims. A little hop. She took it inside the arc. Boston able to finish. Looked like she was getting hugged, but was persistent.
Then there was Odyssey Sims, who reminded people she still got plenty in the tank. Coming off the bench and dropping 15 points, she looked like she had been waiting for the chance to prove herself again. After the game, she even called it a fresh start, saying, "New season starts Sunday."
Williams. Turner finds the cutter. Sims using the window on a really nice pass.
That wasn't just a catchy line, it summed up exactly the way Indiana has approached this whole stretch of basketball. Sims brought a steadiness to the backcourt, managed possessions, and gave them a secondary playmaker that the Lynx never fully adjusted to. It was a performance that spoke volumes about both her preparation and the team's resilience in trusting her. And if that wasn't enough, just as Minnesota tried clawing back into the game, Aerial Powers had her moment. Back-to-back three-pointers that ripped through the net and completely silenced the Lynx momentum. You could actually feel the game shift right there.
Playing in her 8th game with the Fever in their ever-expanding roster because of their injuries. Williams went for the steal. Powers sticks the jumper from 3.
That was the clear side of the floor, and Atisha Heidemann read the defense beautifully.
Howard, good position on the interior. Draws 2, kicks it out. Powers, you bet! Back-to-back 3s from Aerial Powers. Caitlin Clark, euphoric on the bench.
Those 2 shots felt like a dagger, not just because of their timing, but because of the pure confidence they showed. Powers didn't hesitate for a second, and by doing so, she gave her team crucial breathing room during a critical stretch.
Mitchell draws 2 defenders, races away. Home steps inside and flips it in. Really patient. Odyssey Sims with 13, Kelsey Mitchell with 12, Jessica Shepard with 12, Alana Smith with 11. Here's Hull, another.
How's the adventure? Lexi Hull proved once again that she's way more than a role player. She was everywhere, switching on defense, contesting shots against bigger forwards, and still finding ways to chip in offensively. Coaches absolutely love players who can guard multiple positions, and Hull's ability to slide seamlessly has become a backbone piece of this team's defense. Add in her presence as a capable scorer who doesn't need set plays run for her, and you quickly see why she's become indispensable.
tonight for Indiana, but then Bolton gives it right back, and Howard cashes in.
To perform like this, but they have 5 different players almost at all times who can bring the ball up the floor. Usually 4 or 5 who are adept at making shots from deep. I mean, you just saw a big there creating her own look as well from Natasha Howard. Career high in terms of her field goal percentage, and you see her here, the little spin to the middle. That's a tough shot.
Natasha Howard quietly pulled the front court together with her incredible efficiency. She hit shots in rhythm, battled relentlessly under the rim, and gave balance so Aaliyah Boston didn't have to do everything down low. Watching her work on the glass and stretch the floor showed exactly how much she stabilizes this roster, especially in games where rotations are shortened by necessity. By the final horn, the box score told the whole story, 5 players in double figures. That's not an accident. It's a sign of a group refusing to let one star define them. They're proving they can score from multiple angles, defend together, and trust one another to deliver. And the best, even as she sits in street clothes, Caitlin Clark continues to lift the energy from the bench, making sure her teammates feel her presence every single minute. Here's where it gets crazy. There's something Kelsey Mitchell said after the Fever's win that still has people talking. It wasn't a highlight on the floor, it wasn't even about her points. It came later in the locker room, and it struck a chord with her teammates in a way that sums up this entire season. We'll get to exactly what she said in a moment, but before that, it's important to understand why those words carried the weight they did.
You know, kind of all the other things like offensive rebounding that she can do.
Knocked away, Boston comes up with a steal. Here is Mitchell veering through the paint and lays it in.
She's so quick, and especially when she gets out in the open floor, you'll see her coming down. The quick left to right crossover just gets by. I thought she was sprinting. I didn't think she was lumbering.
It was a lumber sprint.
Up for the big girl.
Mitchell like a blur. That's a score. Kelsey Mitchell isn't just having another good year. She's putting together the best scoring season in Indiana Fever history. For the first time ever, the franchise has a player averaging over 20 points per game across the season. That's not just a statistic you glance at once and move past. That's rewriting the record books for a team that hasn't had this kind of offensive firepower in almost a decade. You have to understand, when people talk about this being Indiana's first winning record since 2015, Mitchell is one of the central, undeniable reasons why.
Kelsey, how much pride do you take in the fact that you started in every game now for 2 straight years, and on top of that, you're now the points per game leader in franchise history?
Man, I don't want to sound cliche, but I'm never gonna give up. I'm never gonna, if I'm able, willingly, 2 feet, 2 legs, 2 arms to play the game, because a lot of people can't, I'm gonna play. It may not, fall my way all the time, but you never have to worry about me not being present, especially if I don't have anywhere else to be. So that's just what that is. I'm never gonna not play and compete. You're never not going to see me sit out if I don't need to. And so it's just about staying. I obviously having rhythm and being who I want to be, but I'm all about basketball when it comes to just finishing it out.
Let me break this down for you. The path to this moment wasn't clean or easy. With Caitlin Clark out and defenses turning their entire schemes toward her, Mitchell had every reason to slow down. Instead, she kept producing. Night after night, teams were trapping her, sending 2 defenders at her on the perimeter, denying her touches. In the past, those kinds of tactics might have frustrated her into turnovers or tough shots, but this season, she showed another level of maturity. She learned when to shoot, when to move the ball, and when to calm the offense down. That's the part that sometimes doesn't show up on a stat sheet. She wasn't just scoring, she was leading. She was demanding the ball when Indiana needed a basket, but also trusting her teammates to deliver, especially in the crucial minutes late in game. That balance between attack and trust became a huge reason why role players like Sims, Powers, and Hull looked so comfortable stepping into big shots. They knew Mitchell wasn't only trying to carry the team herself, she was making sure everyone was involved.
Up on that, honestly, you've played against Kelsey a lot, but now that you're her teammate, what stands out to you about her scoring and the way she goes about working on things like that?
Bucket, instant offense, try your best to keep her in front. Trap, that doesn't work. Hard heads doesn't work. You just gotta play as hard as you can just to really keep her in front of you. Seriously. I mean, a lot of people say, it's a fact, but you ask who's one of the toughest guards, who's one of the hardest guards to guard, she's definitely number one.
I appreciate that.
Hands down.
What's even more insane is the numbers, career high averages, and on top of that, the franchise record for the most points per game in a season. Add that to the fact that she's doing it while often facing the opponent's best defender every single night. Against the Lynx, even with bodies grabbing and bumping her every time she came off a screen, Mitchell still finished with 18 points. The crazy part is that she could still control the flow, even while absorbing so much defensive attention. That shows exactly how she's elevated her game.
Here's Mitchell trying to find an angle and does. Just serving it in with the left hand. Ariel Powers made a big impact off the bench in the first half. Here's Mitchell, open three. It's good.
The organization has taken notice too. The Fever aren't just letting her season speak for itself. They're actively pushing an MVP campaign for Mitchell. Graphics, highlights, features, all centered on showing the league and fans that she belongs in that conversation. And honestly, she does. She's not only leading her own team into the playoffs, she's cemented herself as the face of the franchise.
Kelsey Mitchell is a scorer. She has always been a scorer. For her to not just do what she does well and do it in an efficient manner, but then to take on playmaking abilities for her teammates, I think has really expanded her game a little bit and really showed what she's capable of doing. And by the way, we've had to put her on sometimes the best perimeter defenders or best perimeter offensive players, especially the ones that are in ball screens a lot. So we continue to put more on Kelsey Mitchell's plate, and she just continues to rise to the challenge. So I'm incredibly proud of her. She's been through the ringer, and in this organization, and she deserves to continue to elevate her game in the way that she has, and under different circumstances. So I'm proud of her. She's carried us.
So what about those words in the locker room? This is what Mitchell told her teammates. "You've seen our growth." 4 words that stuck because they weren't about her. They were about the team. They were about a group that was written off, learning how to play together and refusing to crumble no matter who was missing. Those words crystallized what makes this season different for Indiana. This team isn't just surviving the chaos of injuries and doubt. They're turning it into proof that they're building into contenders. And Kelsey Mitchell is the voice reminding everyone of exactly how far they've come.
That's not stuff you see on the scoreboard, and that's what everybody cares about, what's only on the scoreboard. But I think in order for us to be who we need to be for a playoff run, like the rebounding, knowing who we're guarding, like not having like live ball turnovers was kind of like, it was pivotal in that third quarter. And so we got gut checked because it could have easily flipped the other way. But I think you see our growth.
Okay, this is what's really happening. What happens when a team built to succeed years from now suddenly looks ready right now? That's what this Indiana Fever group is showing. Their first winning record since 2015 isn't just a number, it's a preview of what could be on the horizon. They've locked into a playoff push while rewriting their history, breaking records, and forcing people to look at them in a totally new way. Most teams in this situation would call the year an accomplishment already. Surviving 3 straight injury after injury, making the playoffs, that would be enough for most franchises. But not this one. The Fever aren't satisfied with proving they belong. They're treating this stretch like the opening chapters of something much, much bigger. This season isn't an ending, it's the foundation.
These last 3 games were pretty high-stakes games with playoffs on the line and whatnot. How much confidence does that give you going into the actual playoffs now?
I think it gives us a lot of confidence, knowing that we can meet the moment at times. I think that when we get a chance to sort of reflect back, it's how do we meet the moment in every game, as opposed to the ones where your back's against the wall. But every game is a back against the wall game now.
And while all of this is happening, Caitlin Clark hasn't disappeared. Nope. She's there on the bench every game, in her warm-ups, watching every possession, talking with teammates about what she sees on the floor. She's embraced that role, helping where she can, analyzing opponents, and already preparing herself for a return to a team that won't look anything like the one she left. Next year, when she steps back into the lineup, she's coming back to a group with playoff experience, chemistry, and undeniable belief. The core is undeniable. Kelsey Mitchell's record-setting scoring, finally pushing past the 20-point mark for the first time in franchise history. Aaliyah Boston's dominance on the glass, breaking her own rebounding marks and controlling stretches of games in a way only special centers can. Add a bench that has found its rhythm, with players like Odyssey Sims and Aerial Powers proving they can swing momentum by themselves. And suddenly, the Fever look deeper than they've been in years.
With everything that has happened so far this season, between the injuries and bringing new people in and all of that, does that make the fact that you have the chance to do everything right to win that championship, does that make that a little more satisfying?
I think so. I think I'm careful to say satisfying as opposed to pleased, right? Like pleased with what we've been able to do, pleased with how we've been able to do it, never satisfied. And I think that's it's just a part of staying hungry to accomplish things that you've not accomplished as a group before.
Coach Stephanie White deserves a ton of credit here too. Her standard over scoreboard mindset has shifted everything. It's about playing to their level, not the opponents, and that has players thinking long-term instead of just chasing single wins. Rookies and reserve starters are gaining crucial playoff minutes now, which means this roster will be battle-tested when Clark returns. Every injury, every lineup shuffle, every gut check win has been preparing Indiana for something more. They're not just surviving this 2025 ride, they've started to build what could be a championship window. And with the playoffs about to begin, that mentality is ready for its biggest test yet. This season was supposed to be about setbacks, but instead, it turned into proof of what happens when a team trusts each other and keeps growing. The Fever have faced injuries, doubt, and tough losses, yet they turned all of that into their first winning record in nearly a decade. Now comes the moment for fans to lift them even higher. Rally behind this group as they push Kelsey Mitchell's MVP campaign and chase a playoff run that felt impossible just weeks ago. Even without Caitlin Clark on the floor, her presence still fuels the dream of Indiana's rise again. If you're pumped up for the playoffs, comment "fired up for the Fever" down below. Make sure to like, subscribe, and turn on all notifications so you never miss out. Click the video on the screen, and we will see you in the next one.